Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday Satsang. Before we dive into the satsang today, I just wanted to announce a little offering that feels to flow this month. So, this month of June, I want to offer one-on-one satsangs. So, if anyone listening is going through a phase in the seeking journey where they could use a listening partner or just a mirror where a pattern or an arising can be looked at together or maybe investigated together to point deeper within that. If that is something that's called within you, feel free to reach out through any of the social media channels, Instagram, Facebook. You can email me, or you can even join the WhatsApp community and then reach out from there. All the links are mentioned in the YouTube description of every video that you see. There is no cost to these sessions. They will be on donation basis. So if there's a calling to contribute financially, it's welcome, but it's not mandatory at all. It's only in the challenging events or times in the flow of life that the understanding or the absence of misunderstanding is tested. In a challenging situation, in a not so agreeable relationship, a loss of some kind, when something there might be fear of happening or avoidance from it happening, and it happens. What happens in our system? What reaction arises? What is there blame or hatred towards life, towards another person? Or is there shame towards ourselves of how we could have avoided the inevitable? Or is there attachment to outcome, this clingy feeling of, well, how could this have happened? Why me? So, in a way, there can be immense gratitude towards the difficulties of life because it is in their happening, in their presence, that we shine through. We shine through as not just physical beings, not just human beings, not just as a person of how we handle the situation or how we respond to the situation. We shine through as spiritual beings, as the light of consciousness, the light of awareness, the light of impersonalness, which is untouched by any difficulty. The surrender in the system, if there has been a yes towards life, towards curiously, openly being available to look at the suffering mechanism, the separate self narratives and beliefs from which we relate to ourselves, towards the other, towards life, as the surrender goes deeper, deeper than mere intellectual willingness to surrender. These difficult situations don't make us hard anymore. They don't close us down anymore. On the contrary, they make us softer. They make us humbler. They make us experientially confirm that the flow of life is not my doing. It's not anybody's doing. There is no doer of this event or this situation. It is just how it is playing out. And we may try, in our misunderstanding and in our arrogance, we may try hundreds of things to fix a situation, and yet it may make things worse. Or we may sometimes go in the situation intending to revolt or to maybe even make the situation worse, and yet somehow the situation magically fixes itself. And all these dynamic unfoldings of life in each moment just open up this presence of more surrender, that look at this. What a marvel. How on earth, how in the world is this happening? Because I may intervene or I may not intervene, and it somehow just shapes itself independent of that, regardless of my existence even. And how that unfolding or shaping of the situation lands here as getting better or getting worse is based on my own genes and up-to-date conditioning. So I can't help but perceive this event, this relationship, this situation in the way that I am. And exactly the same for the other. And there is an inherent undercurrent of humility in that realization. There cannot be any pride whatsoever. Neither can there be any shame or blame. And then another difficult situation may arise, and that shines light on another, maybe deeper or another layer of misunderstanding, where there still was an expectation or blame or attachment. Sometimes in some phases, we have to find solace in aloneness, in spending time in solitude, in nature, or just by ourselves. Maybe going to retreats for days or weeks or even months, where we are called to just be present towards the inner arisings of life, of pleasure and pain, of attitude towards pleasure and pain, the clinging towards the pleasure and resistance towards the pain. And that movement of just being in a solitary confinement by our own choice, by our own calling, can equally translate into finding ourselves right in the middle of the world with our colleagues, with our family, with our spouses, our friends, our relatives, relationships unfolding, interpersonal conflicts and resolutions and power struggles, expectations, hurts, joys, connection, intimacy. It's a whole buffet of experience to be lived in interpersonal relationships. And if that dance of relationship, interpersonal relationship, is penetrated by the openness of looking through the experience itself, each and every moment, each and every unfolding is juicy, is full of an opportunity to not only just look at where we may still be suffering, but an opportunity to look at life itself as a flux, as a continuous movement of its own accord. Nobody's doing. In a way, it's an opportunity to look at everything happening as God itself, including myself as an instrument and including everything else that is considered the other as also just an instrument, playing their parts as meant to be, contributing towards the movement or contributing towards a hindrance or the seeming moving forward. It's all being painted impersonally. There's no bias towards one color or the other. The instrument, one of the colors itself may have a bias towards its own color or a color that it likes. And the tendency to cling towards one color and resist the another is another shade of experiencing of paint on that multidimensional canvas. The painting itself is the painter. There is no separate painter. I, as this human being, is an instrument of this majestic, unfathomable unfolding that we may label as God's will. And I, as that, am myself that within which all of this, the whole shenanigan, the whole flux, the whole that we call life according to God's will, is appearing, is playing, and falling away. So what place does the instrument have to be in to ask, then what do I do? Well, this question in itself emerges from the misunderstanding that I can do something separate from the flow of life. With more and more non-attachment towards the flow of life, a lack of a lack of thinking towards what should happen and what shouldn't happen in life naturally flowers as an ability to fully engage with the flow of life. It's two sides of the same coin. I'm either working towards or running away from something, or in the absence of that, I'm fully present towards what is happening in this moment. In whatever way I am designed, I am destined to be present in that moment. The underlying current is it's okay. It's okay if life doesn't go my way. And it's okay if it does also. But my happiness, my completeness is not dependent on what does or doesn't happen in the flow of life. It is not dependent on who I am, how I am as a person. It is not dependent on how my relationships are, what my financial situation is. All of those arisings, whether pleasurable or painful, are in the spectrum of happening without a doer. And yes, there may be effort, there may be plans made towards mitigating the pain and enhancing the pleasure, but there is no suffering of being afraid that the pleasure will be over, or suffering of shame or blame or attachment when the pain is there. A very interesting exercise might be to look at ourselves just as impersonally as possible, as curiously as possible, to just observe our inner movement when pleasure is there versus when pain is there. If I am having my favorite food, for example, versus when I am served something that I don't like to eat at all. So just in that little event, there is an opportunity to see that, oh, look at that. I am wanting to eat more, maybe more than my body needs. And when I'm served something that I don't like, which is pain in the moment, I am avoiding. I feel like I'm not hungry and I don't eat at all. And just curiously looking at that, of what amount of that is just a reaction towards pain or pleasure, and how much of that is coming from an attitude that, oh, pain, I don't want that. Oh, pleasure. It can be as simple as that. It can be as present in each moment, in each happening. By it, I mean suffering can be this much present in each moment, in each action, in each motivation. If only there were to land this awareness, this unbiased, impersonal awareness, to just be aware. Oh, look at that. Normally, I eat one bowl of food, and today I am eating 3, and I want more. And when something dislikable is served, and it was like, oh, look at that. I generally eat one bowl of food, and today I'm full and half. And even that was a pain. And that's okay. It's not about eating 3 and eating half a bowl of food. It's about being open to look at what was my attitude towards the event, towards the happening. With these little thought experiments, maybe 5 seconds a day, 5 minutes a day, doing something, and awareness lands. Oh, look at that. My motivation was coming from judgment there, or my motivation was coming from trying to be right and proving a point. And just awareness landing in those little ways in daily living is already the beginning. It's already the sign that suffering is falling away. The question that, oh, there is judgment, what do I do about it? That question in itself is appearing from the misunderstanding. That question in itself is appearing from the judgment towards the judgment, that, oh, judgment shouldn't be there, so what should I do about it? We feel that the seeking identity is obsessed with wanting to do something about the non-pleasurable or the suffering arisings. But we are in denial to realize, as the seeking mechanism, that wanting to do something about the suffering is already coming from a place of non-acceptance of suffering. And that already is suffering. Non-acceptance is suffering. So there's nothing to do about the judgment that arises. If there is awareness that is there, that, oh, look at that. I was judgmental there, I was judgmental there, look at that, I'm judgmental again. Awareness happens, judgment falls away, awareness is still there, and then something else arises, or something else arises. Awareness is just there, without getting involved in what's being aware of. And as soon as there is an involvement in whatever is arising, whether that's pleasurable or painful, that involvement in itself is our opportunity to look at, to be aware of again. It's like, oh, look at that. There's involvement towards that piece of chocolate cake. Well, there's no harm in eating chocolate cake unless we have diabetes and it is life-threatening for us to have a chocolate cake. But other than that, there's no harm in having a chocolate cake. But the involvement in the narrative, that, oh, I hope that I get the whole piece. I hope nobody else wants it. oh, trying to budge the line that I hope, like, I want to get first in the line so I can get that cake before somebody else gets it. All of that is like, oh, look at that. I'm not as non-involved, non-attached as I may like to believe. And it doesn't matter. It's just amazing to be able to see that. There's no exam going on here where we say, oh, look, I failed. And then let's say somebody does get that last piece of chocolate cake, and I was like, oh shit. And then there's blame towards that person or judgment towards that person or ill will. And then there can be awareness. Oh, look at that. It just takes a piece of chocolate cake for me to blame someone. And that's progress. That is humbling to be able to see within ourselves. And that is the power of daily living. That is the power of each and every moment that it unfolds in life. It is all a spiritual practice without an exception. There's no special technique needed. Even this awareness landing on our motivations and our attitudes towards the little moments of life, it's not a practice. It's not something we intend to do or we set out to do. We just find ourselves in a place where these things become clear that, oh, I'm blaming there. Oh, I'm blaming myself there. And there's nothing that we can do to build that, to cultivate that. It somehow gets cultivated. And we find ourselves aware as awareness impersonally towards the events that are or are not taken personally. And if awareness is not there in the sense that we are talking about it in this talk, well, awareness is still there. Without awareness, there wouldn't be any experience. So the fact that there is a experience, any experience, fully involved, fully non-involved, whatever kind of experience, the fact that there is experience means that there is awareness within which the experience is experienced. Awareness cannot be absent. There cannot be an experience without awareness. And if there is a movement to wanting to be aware of the flow of life impersonally as awareness, even that movement can be made aware of. It's like, oh, look at that. Now I'm involved. Now there is involvement in wanting to be aware of the mechanism, the system. And that might be another attachment to outcome, or that might just be a natural movement as the flow of life within the flow of life itself. And whether it is coming from attachment or whether it is coming from curiosity or non-attachment in this case, they both are equally God's will. One is not right and the other is not wrong. They both are equally, impersonally, what is supposed to be happening in this moment. And there is no other way but for what is in this moment to be exactly as it is. concepts like there's nothing wrong. What if there is nothing wrong at all? And wrong here meaning that something that shouldn't be. Wrong not in the context of the dual good and evil context, but wrong in the sense that, oh, it shouldn't exist. So what if just because something exists means it is exactly the flow of life, God's will? Me feeling something is wrong is like a little stroke of paint in a 10 by 10 painting, having a feeling saying, oh, the painter shouldn't have painted the stroke like that or that stroke like that. It should have been in that color. And if there is an arising of feeling like something is wrong, is also exactly God's will. Even the feeling of that something is wrong is not wrong. Just because it exists, it is there. It already falls within the acceptance, the unconditional acceptance, the unconditional inclusivity of all there is. So what am I going to question at? What questions remain? Who needs the answer? What is there to understand and what is there to fall away? The whole seeming process of spirituality and spiritual seeking and self-realization now can be seen as a facade from this place of really being able to confirm that it's all one unfolding, appearing as many. There is no within, there is no without. It's all the same, appearing as not same. And if that is not evident, who cares? It's not about anything at all, really. It's not even about being able to see this. Why would we want to see this? Just because a weird lady sitting here is saying that this is how it is, well, who cares? How does it matter? What does matter is peace of mind in daily living. And peace of mind in daily living is another way of saying falling away of non-acceptance to what is, whatever is in this moment, whether it makes sense or not, whether it feels good or not, whether it feels bad or not. Really being able to question that my happiness, my peace of mind is not dependent on any of the pleasures or pains of life. And that itself is freedom. Freedom not from something, freedom not for someone, just freedom without an object, without an owner, without even a subject. So where we began, it is only through the difficult situations in life that the existence of misunderstanding and the existence of understanding can be tested. So if we find ourselves grateful for the challenging situations in life, the spiritual work is done. Nothing to do anymore. That doesn't mean that we don't take action to mitigate the challenge or to help other in need if that's what's calling us. But existentially, internally, inherently, there is gratitude to this whole Leela, that thank you for throwing this challenge in my way, all the way knowing that it is what's destined to be. So it's not somewhere coming out of place just now. It is destiny unfolding. And in the meantime, I'm destined to use this opportunity to polish myself, to look at my clinging towards the absence of the challenge and my resistance towards the existence of challenge. And that already is the biggest gift ever. Let's open the space for any conversation, questions, comments, feedback, any sharing. Feel free to raise your electronic hand on Zoom and I can unmute you.